Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents and Conversations Live. So glad you guys could be with us for a very special conversation with someone who has been very busy this week. We're excited to welcome back New York Times bestselling author Victoria Christopher Murray. I'm excited about this time with her. We're going to be talking with her not only about her new book, you guys can see there, Harlem Rhapsody, but also what it's been like for her to share this story of Jesse Rudman Fawcett with the world and to see the response. We're joining now with our friends over on Amazon Live so they can be a part of the chat and where you guys can be able to get the book. So if you guys are joining us on Amazon, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button either here in this corner or down below. You also will see Victoria's newest book, Harlem Rhapsody, there. Make sure you guys get it either in hardcover as I have it here, or you can get the Kindle edition as well. Victoria, welcome back to the podcast.
I'm glad to be back here with you.
Look, I'm excited. You've had a very busy pub week. So I want to talk about this experience. I was just asking before we went live here if you had a chance to breathe a little bit. What has it been like for you, Victoria, to reflect on the love? Because I've been seeing the pictures. I've seen some of the videos. I mean, it's overwhelming for me watching it to see how people are showing up for you. What has that been like for you?
You said it right. People are showing up for me. It is, I've been doing this for 28 years and I've always had just such great support from readers. But Cyrus, the readers have taken this to another level. Every single event we had this week was sold out. Every single event. Didn't even have that for the personal librarian. And you know how well that book did. So,
right.
I am so grateful. That's the only thing I can say is that I'm just so grateful and thankful for the support. But I also would like to think that the support is not just for me. It's for the character in my book. It's for Jesse Redmond Fawcett, and women and men, black and white, want to give this lady her flowers.
Yeah. You know, we had a great conversation leading up to the publication of Harlem Rhapsody. Victoria, one of the things I said to you then, and I think even when I was prepping for today, I thought about even more how uncanny it is. Your journey with Jesse. I'm sorry, it just is to me. And I think one of the big things is the fact that she was so talented, that she had her own path, but she was there to help inspire others, as a section of the book I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and to push others. That is you. That is who Victoria Christopher Murray is. What has that been like for you? As you said, they're showing up for Jesse, but also it says a lot about these 28 years and how you've impacted the lives of others.
Well, it's funny because I've been quoting you. I've been telling people that you said that I was the only one who could write Jesse's story.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest compliment to me. Like the biggest one, because I think she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I feel blessed. I feel really blessed. Like this is a love letter to her and what she's done. And after you said that, and as I started reflecting, I realized, Cyrus, that this was the book that I was waiting my whole career to write.
Wow.
This is what I've been waiting to just write, because I've wanted to write something that was important for our culture, our people. I've always wanted to write like Jesse, the great American novel.
Yeah.
And this is as close. And I love some of my other novels, Stand Your Ground or one. But this is as close because this does affect American history, right, and how we will look and see her in advance. And then another one of my friends, Candy Jackson, posted on Pub Day that Jesse Redmond Fawcett opened the door for so many writers, just like I've done. And she said, Victoria, you're Jesse. And I just didn't have any words for that. Just didn't have any words for that. So it is an interesting... it's interesting that I was chosen, that God chose me to write her story.
Yeah. There's one powerful scene. I didn't mention it when we spoke before. I definitely want to share it today, Victoria. I think it's so timely. Miss J.B. Williams says hello and welcome. And she says she looks forward to seeing you on the road. And she also says you thought you could and so you did. My mom is here. Hey, Mom. Good to be able to see you. My mom is on Facebook now, and she's watching on Facebook. Good to be able to see you. I see you guys over there on IG as well. Hello to you, AFM Media. Hello to you, 563 Music Group. Conquer with Chris. Hello to you. And you guys over on Amazon, if you guys have any questions for Victoria, put those in the chat for me. Victoria, I want to talk about Jessie Redmond Fawcett for a second, because I think for those who, again, I told you before, I had never heard of her before you told me about her story. We were sitting there in Ohio, and when you first asked me, I was like, no, I don't know who that is. So how did you first discover her?
Well, so I've been writing historical fiction now for a couple of years. And when it came time for me to write my own project, I wanted to choose someone that I was going to want to spend the next 2 years with. Because that's how long it takes to write a historical novel, at least 2 years. And so I looked at the things that interest me. I looked at first, I love the 1920s period. I love New York. And then that's when I said, oh, maybe the Harlem Renaissance. But Cyrus, when I started doing surface, just the surface internet, because that's not where you do your research for historical fiction. But when I was Googling things like women of the Renaissance, not very much was coming up. You know, Zora would come up, Nella would come up, and I was looking for something different. And I heard a podcast called Harlem on My Mind by Tremaine Lee. And that one was about Jessie Redmond Fawcett. And it was so interesting because I had seen her name, but I only saw her name where Langston Hughes said that Jessie Redmond Fawcett was the midwife of the Renaissance. And I kind of skimmed over it. I shouldn't have. But once I made the connection between Tremaine Lee and Langston, I knew I'd found my person.
Wow. And so then that's interesting then, because again, it goes to what I was saying earlier about, you mentioned about no one else could have written this book. Do you feel that connection immediately once you got into that deep dive of her and kind of discovering not only her own writings, Victoria, but her impact on the Harlem Renaissance?
Yes. So I immediately felt a connection, maybe, within the first few weeks, because she was a writer she was a Black female writer. And then I discovered that she had written, as a Black female writer, the first novel about middle-class Black people, about college-educated Black people. And I said, this is crazy. I've been writing this my whole life, and I had never even been curious enough to find out who was the person who did it first. And so then I knew I stood on her shoulders. She wrote it first. I've written 30 books like that since. And I knew then that what I was writing was important. Like every day, the more I discovered about her, the more I realized that this wasn't going to be an ordinary book. That this was very important to our own history.
Yeah. And what I love about this too, the interesting marriage you've done with Harlem Rhapsody, Victoria, is that you give us the history, but you also give us you. And there was a couple places that to me, and I want to talk about those because I thought we mentioned some great ones in our previous conversation, and I'll link that up for our audience. But in this one of the situations is as you are, of course, at an event, you have us at an event with Jessie and others, Will, which we'll get more into that with W.B. Du Bois, but also Harry Pace. And there's this great thought, and I want to share this because I thought this was really interesting when I first read it. And then I thought, you know what, I would definitely want to ask Victoria about that, because as Harry is kind of thanking Will about the impact that Will has been able to make. I love this what you have Harry saying. Something you taught me, Mr. Du Bois, is that art must be used as propaganda, or what's its purpose. I'm committed to ensuring that everything we record will change the way this country sees its Negro citizens. I want to talk about that because that's interesting especially in the world we live in today. And it
Yeah.
really shows the power of the word, but also power of the art. Talk to us about that for you. What that was like for you to share, and what that was like for you to reflect on as a writer, Victoria, about the impact of art and how it can be used.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the book too, I I talk about Will or W.E.B. Du Bois talking
Mhm.
about art as activism.
Yeah.
And I realized, Cyrus, that that's what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
came over to historical fiction with the personal librarian, but then with the first ladies, we talked about
Hmm.
the political impact of what we were doing. And
Yeah.
then writing Jesse's story is really activism at this time when people want to ban books about our history. And
Yeah.
there is so much history in this book, so much history that she was a part of,
Hmm.
that this would be the ultimate thing to ban,
Yeah.
you know? And so I say that now I'm able to use my art as activism, and the more they ban or the more they try to ban, the faster I will write.
Mm.
Because there are
Wow.
so many more people like this who've been hidden, who've been covered up, and it is very clear to me. It's always been clear to me that I was supposed to be a writer.
Yeah.
And some people might say, "Oh my goodness, Victoria, you wasted all that time writing that other stuff." But I don't think so, because
Mhm.
that other stuff taught me how to write drama. And so I can bring drama to historical fiction where people can still be entertained but learn a lot about our history.
Yeah.
And so I'm using this now, and what Harry Pace was talking about there with his Black Swan Records, which was the first Black recording company, because they didn't trust white companies to portray us in a positive way. They started Black Swan. That's what I'm doing now. Everything I write will always be my art, and it'll be used as activism.
Love that. So beautifully said. Hello to you, Robert Ham, over there on Facebook. Want to reset real quick and say, for those who are just joining us, welcome. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents or listening to Conversations Live. Appreciate you guys piling in over there on Amazon, but also on IG. Hello to you, Dorita Parks. Dorita from Ohio is joining us. Victoria over on IG. Hello to you, Christic Music. Hello to you, Deja Marie. Hello to you as well. Marie Chu Elliott. Hello to you over there on IG as well. We have New York Times bestselling author Victoria Christopher Murray joining us today, talking with us about her brand new book, Harlem Rhapsody, that's out this week. You guys have made it the number one new release on Amazon, but this is just the beginning. People have been showing up for Victoria with this brand new book, being able to not only find out about Jesse Redmond Fawcett, like I did in this book, but
Like
also
I did.
yeah, look, but also the great storytelling that Victoria brings to it. Robert says awesome. And if you guys over on Amazon, I see you guys. I appreciate that. Appreciate the love over there on Amazon. If you guys have any questions, though, Victoria, put those in the chat. Victoria, I have to ask you about something. I think that is. I've noticed you say online, and also you said in the conversations with me about why this book is the book really that you are meant to write. And I think that for you, I think there's a lot that has come with this book, right? And but also a lot of new attention. What has that been like for you? Because and I think about again in parallel to Jessie, who was someone who was very comfortable in her own ability, but was still able to share and bring others along, and and to rise in other worlds. What has that been like for you to embrace this new audience, and also the new responsibilities in your career?
Yeah, it is interesting. I had a little bit of preparation for it with the personal librarian and the first lady. So I had a little bit of preparation for it. What I appreciate about this now is the way that people who look like you and me are coming out for this.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be very important, because I think what people are showing, especially this week, where at my launch there were 300 people. The next night there were 250 at the Schomburg, Cyrus. I got to sign at the Schomburg, the library of the Harlem Renaissance. I got to take Jessie home to New York. I think what people are showing and what publishers are seeing, not just mine, who has shown up to a couple of my events, but Rashonda and I were talking about how it's spreading through other publishers, that people are saying, wow, Black people want some of these stories. And I think that I'm so pleased to see the attention from us. And that means that we want more of these stories.
Yeah. That leads me to one of the most powerful conversations for me as a reader, Victoria, in the book. And you mentioned Langston Hughes earlier, and you wrote this scene in the book where you can tell he is in a challenging space up here.
Yeah.
And the way that you have Jesse and Langston having this time together, for one, him appreciating his own value, but when it feels like, and I'll talk around this and you'll know what I'm talking about, that someone wants to take the soul of his work.
Yeah.
And Jesse saying to him, this is one of my favorite parts of the book, that your soul belongs to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to us about that. Again, a beautiful parallel for you, Victoria, in your career. And it's very easy, when you get to a certain place, right? People make you feel like you have to do certain things. What has that been like for you to trust the gift, but also to realize where the gift comes from?
Yes. Well, people will never be able to get me to forget where this gift comes from. So I don't care who you are. I think that's because I always knew I was going to be a writer. I came out of my mother's womb wanting to do what I'm doing now. And so how could I, at this age, doing what I love so much, how could I not recognize where the gift comes from? So that will never, ever be an issue. And what's so good about it is that people know who I am at this point. I've been doing this. I'm not new to this, And so publishers even know who I am. What is interesting, I do have to tell you this. When I decided to do a solo project, my publisher asked my agent for me to send in 3 proposals. And one of my proposals was to do a novel on the women who were part of the March on Washington. And because of my political interests, that's the one I wanted to do. Like, I was sold on it. And I found Jesse, so I did enough of a synopsis. And then there was something about the Board of Ed, that the 1954 case. So I was sold on the women of the March on Washington. I had a title, No Ordinary Wednesday. And I gave the proposal to my editor, a white woman, and she read through all of them. She called me up and said, Victoria, it has to be Jesse.
Wow.
And so I trust my gift, but I trust their gift too. I trust everybody else's gift. So I listened to her. All I said was, really? You know how much I want to do the March on Washington? And she said, it has to be Jesse.
Wow.
And so I said, well, you know what? It's going to be Jesse. And my goodness, how right she was. And because now, and remember, it was just the surface of Jesse that I had found at that point. But my editor, which is her job, she could see the bigger picture. All I had was a little synopsis and my love of politics, for the March on Washington. Right. But it was the way she said it. She said, Victoria, it has to be Jesse. Like, she believed that this was the woman's story that needed to be told. And I will always be grateful to her for that, because she was right.
Yeah. And again, no one else could do it.
I keep telling people that you say that. That's my favorite
I think, Victoria, as someone who's read you throughout your career, anyone who's read your books have gotten to know you. When they read this book, this is Victoria Christopher Murray's book. This, I mean, you all could be related.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
I mean, just because of her, not only the impact that she had, when it comes to sparking what we know as the Harlem Renaissance, but what she's been able to do in being able to trust her own gift, like you talked about, and being able to know what's important, and make difficult decisions,
Yeah.
personally and professionally. That
Yeah.
is not always easy. She was ahead of her time, in many ways.
She really was.
Yeah. So for you, I mean, yes, this is a powerful book in your career, your first solo historical fiction. But when people pick up Harlem Rhapsody, what is your hope that when they finish it, that stays with them, Victoria?
I want them to, you know what? I want Jesse to be the opening.
Okay.
I want Jesse to be the opening. And what I mean by that is I want people to look at this and read and say, oh my goodness, this woman started a literary movement and we never knew her name. Yeah. I want people to start saying, who else is out there? Yeah. Who else are we missing? Victoria, help us find these people. I want this to be, you know, because what's so interesting is that I wrote about Belle DeCosta Green, and that was a very interesting thing in a personal librarian, but she was passing for white with J.P. Morgan, and we did say who knew, but Belle didn't feel like us, you know, because we're not passing. She is one of us. But that's not how we're living. That's not how we're moving, most of us today. Mm-hmm. Then we wrote the book on Mary McLeod Bethune and Eleanor Roosevelt. We knew how much Mary had done. We just learned how much bigger she was. Right. But we knew her. And she was already big and already a celebrity. I think what's so interesting about Jessie is us. Mm-hmm. Jessie, in fact, even some of her beliefs where she was like almost 100 years ahead of her time. Jessie was just a Black woman trying to make it in this world. She knew her gifts. She had to be 3 times better just to be considered equal, just like us. Yeah. You know, she had to get out there and be the best one, just like us, before anybody would look at her. And I feel like Jessie feels like us. I think that's what's happening with people. The reaction to this book, before people open up the first page, you can almost, it's palpable the way people are reacting to the book in the audience without even having read it. She feels like one of us. People want to know her story so they can tell other people. And I want this to be the opening, the beginning. When people say, so if they hid Jessie's story, and we have these other hidden figures from the movie and everything, who else are they hiding? And that's what I want this to be.
But Victoria, I have to say, though, you do know one of the reasons why that's happening is because of your passion for this, right? Your passion for this comes out. When I sat there with you in Ohio at that table, I went and Googled. I didn't tell you this at the time. I went and Googled after we sat there for almost an hour.
Yeah.
Like, because I had never heard of this person before. So I was like, who is, but it was your passion. And there was no book at that point, you know? Yeah. And I just the way you talked about it. I want to say this too. And let me acknowledge, hello to you. Dorita says, love the statement, trust your gift and everyone else's gift. She also says, congratulations on your first solo. Ellen Sutter says, good to see you. Can't wait to get my hands on this book. It's on sale right now on Amazon, Ellen. So go ahead and make sure you grab it. But Victoria, I want to say this about not only Jessie, but also about you that I think is so powerful as you were just talking. I think what's so fascinating to me too, in having read the book and gotten to know you and spending time with you, is that as you talked about her gift, I thought about your gift. But what was so passionate about the way you wrote Harlem Rhapsody, Victoria, is that she was not someone who tried to keep that space to herself. She was someone who was willing to share that space and to encourage people to be a part of that space. And that takes a lot of confidence. And that's another thing I think people like so much about you, is that confidence of your being able to occupy the space that you're in, Victoria, but also welcoming other people into that space as well. Do you think that's also one of the connections that you felt with when you think about Jessie and you? Oh, Victoria, I think we may have, did we lose you, Victoria? Let's see. Looks like we may have lost Victoria. Let's see if we can bring her back. No, Ellen, I think I think we lost our connection. We're going to see if she's able to join us back. But I think that is one of the big things that I took away for sure is that let's see, JB Williams on YouTube said you even sound different talking about. I agree with you, Miss Williams, and I think that is one of the powerful things about this conversation with Victoria. I know she's on the road. We may have lost our connection with this, but for those of you who have not gotten your copy of Harlem Rhapsody, it's definitely a book you want to be able to grab. It is on sale right now on Amazon. You guys can be able to get the paperback edition or the Kindle edition right now on sale. So make sure you guys do grab that. And also, of course, the other work by Victoria as well. If you guys look in the carousel on the Amazon side, we went ahead and put the First Ladies there, and the personal librarian as well is there. So make sure you guys get it too. If you guys have not also followed Victoria, she is on it. Oh, I think we got her back.
Okay. I am so sorry. Somebody called me and knocked me out.
No problem. No problem. I don't think you heard the question yet, so I'm going to ask the question again, because as you were talking about Jesse's impact, Victoria, the thing that I thought about again, that connection, was her being able to appreciate her space and her gifts, but not being afraid to share that space. Yeah. We saw that with Langston Hughes. We saw that with others. I mean, did you feel that connection with her too, as you saw how she was confident in her abilities as an editor and an author, but she was not intimidated by other people in that space?
Yes. And that's one of the things I've always said to writers. I've always said to writers that we shouldn't be in competition, that we're in this together. Because what we need to do is build a community of readers. And we can only build a community of readers together, because nobody's going to say, oh, I'm an avid reader, but I only read Victoria Christopher Murray. Because that means you're not too much of an avid reader, because you're only going to read every 2 years. You're only going to read a book every 2 years. And so she never felt threatened by anybody else. And in fact, when I say that Jessie ignited the Harlem Renaissance, it's because she nurtured and edited and published other writers, because it was her book that launched it that night of March 24th, 1924, when at her launch party, they said, the new Negro movement begins today. And that's what we call the Harlem Renaissance. But really, the reason the movement continued beyond her one book was because she had a pipeline of authors for them. Yeah. And so that's when Langston Hughes got his book published. That's when County Cullen got his book published. If she didn't have that pipeline of authors, I don't know what would have happened. They all came from Jessie. Yeah. And so she never had a fear of somebody was taking something away from her. In fact, she was the most prolific writer of the Harlem Renaissance. She wrote 4 novels, and she had something inside every single Crisis magazine. So I think she believed in her gift. There was no reason for her to fear. Nobody could take it away from her, because her gift, what was for her, was going to be for her. And I think more came to her because of everything she gave out.
So true. There's another scene, as you were talking, I thought about too, with Du Bois, where they disagreed, and she could let it be known, regardless of her feelings toward him, that she disagreed about, the way he looked at and I think that again is so powerful. Victoria, again, I'm so excited for you. I know this is a big moment in your career. Again, make sure you guys get your copy of Harlem Rhapsody here on Amazon. You guys can see it there in the carousel. For those joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, there's a link that'll bring you guys over to Amazon. Those on X, you'll see it in my comment section. Those on Instagram, the link is in my story. Victoria, I was telling them about staying connected with you. Is Instagram the best place, or where would you like to get?
Instagram is the best place for me. And then of course, I'm on Facebook as well. But Facebook, mostly I do all of my book stuff on Instagram.
Love it. Well, Victoria, we love you. I love you. Congratulations again. And thank you so much for spending some of your pub week with us.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And it's still going on till tomorrow.
There you go. And we thank you, our audience, for tuning in. Another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents and Conversations Live. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.